Hello and welcome to this video presentation. My name is Paul Brett. I am a Senior Software Support Analyst supporting the Transformation Extender product from IBM. Today's topic is importing a type tree from a database using the JDBC adapter. Feel free to reach out to me on popular social media channels at Paul Brett IBM. The inspiration for today's video comes from the document you can find at the link at the top of the screen. I use this document to create the script you see below, and using this script I can generate a type tree from the Microsoft SQL Server database over a JDBC connection. So here we are in my virtual machine, and I'm going to bring up the directory where I've stored that script. We'll have a quick look at the script in Notepad. Okay, so I'm setting 4 variables at the beginning. I'm setting the DTXHOME variable to point to my ITX 10.1 installation. I'm setting the Java_home variable to point to the DTXHOME and then in subdirectory Java. I'm then changing the path to include DTXHOME, also Java_home/bin, and anything else that was on the path prior to that. And finally I'm setting class path to include DTXHOME \*, DTXHOME \*tools*, DTXHOME \extjar \, and this is the Microsoft SQL JDBC driver here, JDBC 921JRE8.jar, and finally the rest of whatever was on class path beforehand. So that's my 4 variables set. Then I execute my Java command, which calls a class with some arguments. Argument number 1 is calling the M4 JDBC driver. Argument number 2 is saying where we want the type tree to be created, full path in quotes. Argument number 3 is the -URL, and we do the same URL that we use to connect when we're running the map. So we've got JDBC : SQL Server : / my host name : my port name 1433. This would vary depending on the database vendor being used. We're using Microsoft SQL Server here. So we've got -user, -password, -schema, -catalog, which points to my master database, and finally the actual object that we want to generate a type tree from, which here is a table, so -table test1. Okay, I don't actually have this jar file in place at the moment, so let's show you what happens when you don't have that. I'm going to drop to a command prompt at this location, and I'm going to execute the script. And as you can see, we get a Java exception that says no suitable driver detected for the specified connection URL. Okay, let's fix that. We'll leave that window open for the moment. We'll go into the extras directory here, and I have the jar file, which I shall copy into my CIBM Transformation Extender 10.1 extjar directory. Okay, the jar file is now in place. Let's close that window. Let's move that out of the way for the moment and run the script again. The script is completed. There's a warning there, but we can ignore that for the moment. That's just a security about TLS versions. But it does say type tree generated successfully, and if we have a look in our file explorer back in the maps directory, you will note that I now have a table_test.mtt. The next step is to see if that type tree can actually be used to read data from the database. So let's fire up the Extender Studio. In this window I've already set the path to the correct version, so just typing in Extender Studio will fire up the correct version for me. Okay, let's start a new Extender project. We will call this project type tree, and we will point to this directory. Actually, we'll call it TypetreeJDBC, and pointing to that directory. Okay, within the TypetreeJDBC directory, you will note that we have the table_test.mtt type tree. I recommend opening that and analysing it and then saving it again. And the reason for that is if you don't do that, every time you attempt to build the map that uses that type tree, here is one of them, you get a warning. The following type trees have not been analysed. So let's cancel that. Let's close the map for the moment and go into the type tree and do that step. Tree, analyse structure and logic. It's a fairly quick process, and then save the tree again and close. Okay, let's go through the map. My original map for calling the JDBC just called the rule in a simple text blob. Here is my rule. Select star from test 1 is in my connect string there. So if I build and run this map, the map has completed successfully and created a file called output.txt. Let's just drag that over there. And that's my entire test1 table. So we know that the original rule works, but this is just bringing it into a text blob, which cannot then be mapped further on in other later output cards. So let's look at a slight modification to that map that I made earlier. And we've got the same rule, but we've wrapped it in a parse function, and the type tree used for the card is the type tree table_test.mtt. The object I'm using is called rowset. So now when I build and run this map, I should still see the same output, but the important thing is detail is being parsed into these rows. And if you look at output card 2, you will note that I am trying to read the name column from a specific row, row 1, and this is the content I will end up in my output file. So if we build and run this version of the map completed successfully, we've just got the word pool, which was the first row. To show that the type tree can be used on input, I've got a third map here where I've used the exact same type tree, table_test, row set again. My JDBC connection string is stored in the card. And here on output 1 of the map, I'm using a package function to read the entire table again. So if I build and run this map, the input has validated successfully through the entire contents of that type tree, and we have indeed called back the entire table again. So there we go, a short summary of how to generate a type tree via the JDBC connection using the JDBC adapter at the command line. I want to thank you for taking the time to watch my video presentation today. If you found the content interesting and informative, please hit that like button. Consider subscribing to my YouTube channel, as I release content such as this on a regular basis. Feel free to reach out to me on popular social media channels at Paul Brett IBM. Thank you.